Hi everyone, it's DM Captain Obvious, here with Game 2 of the Fighting the Fish series. It is a best of 7 format against the various levels of Stockfish. We were able to take Game 1. Stockfish 5 didn't put up a tremendous amount of resistance. We're going to try to keep that going. It is a best of 7, and if I win, I move up to level 6. Lose, go down to level 4, and so on and so forth. Hopefully we'll be working our way up to level 8 in no time here. Alright, so we've got a Dutch defense on board here. My common defense against d4, I prefer this setup. I'm going to leave my options open whether I want to play g6 or e6. We could play classical Dutch. I like g6 a little bit more for going for wins, but you always have to be mindful of this move h4 in response to g6. I think that white gets a very interesting initiative after h4 and then h5, really breaking into this pawn setup. So we'll go with the classical Dutch. g3 is very interesting. I'm not so sure that Stockfish level 5 would plan this, but I have seen club level players, and a few masters actually, play this idea of h3 and then g4, kind of a bayonet attack where you're looking to break apart the pawn chain or cause something to flinch and maybe even make use of the g file in a quick attack against the vulnerable black king, as we have weakened the squares around the king should I castle kingside. We'll go ahead and just develop and how about that? So I do have the move knight e4 in response to knight c3 rather than bishop d2, although with bishop d2 I could consider queen e7. Here I think knight e4 is where the knight wants to end up. Castling is of course another option, and b6 and then bishop b7 is another setup that works. The nice thing about knight to e4 is that if white breaks the pin by going bishop d2, I can go ahead and grab the bishop pair, which is, of course, long-term a nice little thing to have in the back pocket. But white is more likely to play queen c2 in reply, so knight e4 and then queen c2, maintaining flexibility, and then I wouldn't have knight takes, pawn takes, and my bishop has to come back to e7. Nonetheless, this is a pretty standard position. The classical Dutch is a nice way to answer 1d4. If you're looking to keep your options open, try to go for a win with black. It's thought that white is generally a little bit better in a lot of the variations, but it's not always so easy to prove, and of course black can make this f-pawn move up the board pretty quickly a lot of the time, especially after a move like e3, bishop d3, and then castles short. You can start cracking things open and really going after the white king. Not sure if we're going to get that here, but it is a pretty common motif in these sorts of setups. Alright, so knight e4, b6, or just castle short. All are very pleasant, I believe. I'm going to castle. Knight e4, I'm pretty sure queen c2 would be the answer, so I doubt I'd be able to pick up the bishop pair. Now, e3, so we might get some kind of thematic f4 here, but let's go ahead and now we'll just do knight e4. It's pretty interchangeable, castling and knight e4, just in case he does play bishop d2. How about that? I think this is it's not bad necessarily, but it does give me the option of taking the bishop pair, which I probably will here. Let's not spend too long on that. I like the bishop pair. So if queen takes, we also have an option. Whoa. Okay, well, Stockfish level 5, you're doing it again. Playing some wacky stuff. King takes d2. This is, of course, very silly. Just queen takes, even knight takes is fine, but queen takes would make the most sense, and then bishop d3 and castle short. This is just very silly. Um, I think it's time to start opening things up. This, of course, is pinned. This knight is pinned, so we'll get d5 in pretty easily. I'm not worried about white making use of this hole on e5. I'll be able to challenge it pretty easily. I'll have ideas like c5. I just want to crack this open. This king is ridiculous. I think it's time for us to go checkmate him. Yeah. He's going to have to run at some point. This is now just kind of an attacking position. This was a strange idea by Stockfish 5. Do I even want to take with the queen? I mean, obviously the knight is pinned. I mean, I can play queen takes, but I think there's more flash than substance to that. I actually think I want to take here, yeah? Maybe? I could just recapture. So I'm looking at these two captures, and my reason being is if the pawn recaptures, I do have potentially, not presently, but I do potentially have another way to get at the king. And of course, takes. We're fine. We'll have a nice open e-file, assuming the king runs this way. I mean, I guess he could have an idea of tucking him on the queen side, but that would seem a bit silly, as the c file is already open. And if knight takes, do I play just, I would imagine e5, I guess. So takes e5. Takes, there is no time for this. I just take the knight with check, and then I'll be picking this pawn up in a moment. So I think I will go ahead and play this and see if he lets me start rolling in the center. He does. Okay, so we're going to kick him around a little, and once this knight moves, now I have queen takes with check, which honestly looks pretty good. Again, we're going to take advantage of the fact that this knight is pinned. I do want to actually be mindful of ideas of making sure that I don't get put into a precarious situation with the bishop pinning my queen to my king after the king moves to, say, c1. Yeah, I guess either way, well, c1 actually might make more sense in that position to break out of this pin. And then after I move, the knight could take my bishop. So maybe queen takes is not actually the right choice here, although initially I would have preferred that. I think I actually would like to take this knight out, since I'm likely going to have to give this bishop up for the knight anyways. Give up the nice bishop pair, but I wonder if king takes is actually better than pawn takes, because then he really won't have anywhere to hide over here. Whereas after king takes, he can still try to run away and have these two pawns intact. Yeah, okay, so it is king takes. Let's go ahead and, well, not here yet, given that the bishop controls a6, but maybe try to break things open and get this rook playing a little bit faster. White is just begging for me to attack. I'm thinking about queen f6 here. I'm thinking just to really interpose myself on this long, weak diagonal. h4 is also a move here. I'm down a pawn, but this king is so weak. I gotta think that queen f6 is a strong move. Maybe even queen d6 is a little bit better, though. I wonder if I've misplayed this somehow. Well, I guess we'll find out in the post game, but I do think Queen f6 just preparing. Hmm, the king's not running away. I actually thought that after Queen f6 we would see King b2, just getting prepared to meet e4 check with King b1. But here now I have the option of playing e4 check, and now the king won't be able to run away. And I might need to do that now because if I delay a move, then he could play King b2 and then King a2 and try to hide there. Well, if I play e4 check, I suppose he could just play Queen d4. e4 check, Queen d4, and then I don't really have anything, and I'm still down a pawn. Let's go ahead and pin this pawn to the queen then. And then we can even consider things like knight c6. Yeah, and then the king just pulls back, which is sensible. I don't think I actually had the time to prevent King b2 at any point. So now I have two funny developmental moves to choose between. I have knight c6 and bishop e6. These are the two developmental moves I'm considering. Both are taking advantage of the fact that this pawn cannot capture due to the fact that the queen is hiding behind that pawn should it move. I'm actually going to go with bishop e6 because this actually attacks the pawn, unlike knight c6. And yeah, so we do see e4 played, but I can go ahead and take on e4 and renew the threat, which I'm going to. And this also allows me to attack f2, although that doesn't seem like something I need to be considering yet. So bishop c4, defending the pawn. Do I have b5? b5, and if bishop takes b5, then rook takes d5, and that would be a fork on the queen and the bishop. The bishop wouldn't be able to protect the queen on d3, so what we'd have to see is the queen moving to one of these two squares to protect the bishop, which looks to be pretty good to me. The bishop could, of course, drop back, but that just allows me to... Oh no! Oh good, I have the knight there. For a moment I thought that I had blundered bishop c6, but of course the knight is protecting c6. Sorry, I got loud there. Yeah, so we do see queen e2. Had a little bit of a panic attack there. Thought I just allowed for this very simple tactic. So I do need to keep that in mind now. But nonetheless, I actually like what's happening here. I think the position is very promising. My pawns on the e-file look pretty ridiculous, but I don't know how relevant that is. You know, this threat of bishop c6 is actually kind of annoying, so I'm going to sidestep it. I'm going to just come ahead and start putting pressure on the position, maintain the pressure on the bishop, prepare to move my knight, which I probably want to do now. I think bishop a4 is a little bit of a preventative move, actually. The engine doesn't want me to play a5, a4 and start making pawns flinch. So this is kind of an interesting little defensive idea that Stockfish 5 has found to try to keep this king safe as long as possible. But I think that's going to be a pretty futile effort. I'm going to be coming in pretty fast. There's just too many open lines for me to get at the king. It's just a matter of time. Okay. So he's going to go ahead and attack my rook, which I will parry likely with just knight d4. I don't want to make, well, yeah, I'm not sure how many other options I have. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and do that. Knight takes, pawn takes. I'm happy to give this pawn up because I have the check afterwards in those situations. B4. That doesn't seem right to me. That feels like a blunder. I can just take it, and then I'm hitting his bishop. The bishop actually is not going to have anywhere to go. I'm watching over these squares. So that just seems very wrong to me. This is barely held together. This just seems very wrong. What is the tactic? Is there even an immediate tactic that I need to think about? Something like rook takes bishop? No, because he doesn't have to play rook takes rook, which allows rook takes knight. My thought was if rook takes bishop, rook takes, then rook takes, but he doesn't have to do that. Rook takes, pawn takes, and then if rook takes, rook takes. And I'm just down there. I don't see any value in knight takes knight. This might not actually have an immediate tactic, but his king is much weaker now than before when he played b4. So let's go ahead and drop back and threaten just to double. Whoa, that's just allowing rook takes, and then knight takes. Yeah, just a piece. Rook takes, bishop takes, knight takes. Drops my piece here, so I want to take with the knight, where he doesn't have knight takes knight. Yeah, that's just going to be a clean piece, I believe. We're going to get that on the board. Rook takes, and then knight takes bishop. Which... oh, goodness. Intermezzo. So he's taking me with check. Still, this doesn't look good. Rook takes is now met with rook takes knight with check. So he has to take knight with the knight. But this... this doesn't look great for white. Let's try to be precise here. Do I want to sink my queen in on c4? Just threatening queen takes b4. Do I want to play rook a7, threatening rook a2 or queen a2? I could also play queen a6 with... What is the best way to coordinate my pieces around his king? He has some defensive ideas, so I want to make sure that I'm precise. The knight on a1 is actually offsetting my knight for now. I think rook a7 is most precise. Just looking to come into rook a2 or queen a2. This control over the c-file is very easily challenged, whereas my control over the a-file would not be. And I think we are going to go ahead and start sinking in. I'm never worried about a move like that. There's just too many issues if the queen is no longer defending. Oh my. Sorry about that. I hit a button on my mouse and it backed me up into the board editor. Strange. Okay. Well, we're back in the game. Thankfully, it didn't lose it. Alright, so knight b3. Offering me queen c4 looks right. I don't want to take, obviously. I don't want to... This knight is fantastic. Just queen c4. This knight is actually preventing rook a2 check. So, like, if knight takes, rook a2, the king comes back, and then it's checkmate. So, whoa! Don't I just have this tactic? Winning the queen? Yeah. That just... I think that just loses. Yeah, that was strange. Now he has to take the knight because it's otherwise check and then mate. So this is also going to be checkmate. check here, check, takes, queen takes. I'd like to mate him. Um, wow, that was just kind of a stunning blunder by white. I know the position was pretty bad. Maybe, yeah, queen c3. Um, I thought maybe queen d2 to prevent queen c2 made a lot more sense. Um, yeah, well, we'll take a look at that after the game. Right now, let's see if we can finish this up pretty nicely. I think it starts with, we're going to start with a check, check here, and then check is actually mate. But he'll come here, and then I don't have this because the knight is protecting it. But check here. There's got to be a very simple mate. I wonder why I'm struggling to see this here. I mean, there just has to be a checkmate, right? Maybe there isn't. Everything wins, though. Everything does win. If there's a checkmate, I'm not seeing it. So we'll just go ahead and start weaving one, coordinating on these dark squares. Check. King has to come here. Let's just take some stuff. And then, yeah. This should become much more clear now. Oh. Yeah. Check. So come in. I think I might just trade down. Yeah, let's just go ahead and... Well, actually, I don't need to trade down. We can just take more stuff, kind of play around with Stockfish level 5 a bit here. This is this is definitely not the fastest way to finish the game, but it will be good enough. Yeah. Okay. Hitting this. God, this is just a pretty straightforward finish here now. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to wrap this one up pretty quick with Stockfish and move on to game 3. A couple of really weird moves in this one, obviously. Actually, let's try to see if we can get knight f1 in and keep our queen, just to really demonstrate some silliness here. Yeah, we're going to interfere with the rook watching over e1. Now I get to keep my second queen, which is just a funny little way to finish here. Okay, so no doubt I'm going to get docked a lot here for not finding the fastest win. We had a pleasant Dutch defense here. I think that unfortunately after king d2 the game just kind of took a bit of a silly turn, which Stockfish 5, in my experience, Stockfish 5 doesn't generally make moves that silly. Generally they're a little more subtle why they're not great, but that's just a very... Then again, king d2, Stockfish level 10 plus here says that white is still fine. So what do I know? It looks very silly to me. But yeah, I think this whole idea of luring the king out was right. Maybe queen f6 wasn't, though. Um, yeah, okay. Yeah, queen f6. Not not the way to maintain equality or an advantage. When I initially played this, I had overlooked queen d4 in reply to e4. This is never really actually a threat. Um, hmm. But we get this nice little sequence in. Um, yeah, e4 not really helping the matter for white. And then, of course, b5 is a nice little deflection. Here I had my little panic attack thinking I had allowed a fork for half a second. But, yeah. I think this is pretty nice from this point on. Yeah, of course, b4 is a big evaluation shift. That was just a very unnecessary move. These pawns have a very big role in keeping his king safe. Allowing me to open things up was just very silly. And was there an immediate tactic or anything? Rook b8, pinning the pawn. Yeah, okay. That makes a lot of sense too. Pinning this guy and maybe piling up. Maybe even something with knight takes and then rook takes would have been stronger. Let's see what they have to say here. Rook. Oh, I don't know if I. Let's see what I would do with white here. I would probably have chosen. Yeah, this is not a great position for white. And if knight takes, this is just gonna hurt a lot. And then this is coming, and that's no good. You really need these pawns to stay frozen for white. So yeah, it's starting to make sense to me why rook b8 is much stronger than just rook c7. I wanted to keep my rook on the open file, but it wasn't actually doing anything there. And I was hoping for some kind of tactics, but I couldn't see anything that was precisely forcing. This obviously the position is pretty bad already, but is bishop takes bishop actually even? No, yeah, rook takes is the sensible line. This is the one that I was looking at. Rook takes and then knight takes, and then we win the piece. Either way he recaptures, we're winning a piece. So that's what I thought we were going to see, but we see bishop takes bishop, which, yeah, when we saw most of these moves, discussed them during the game, it's just a matter of finesse, and thankfully we did find the right move in this situation, and then queen c4, yeah. This is just a simple tactic, deflection. This is an old trick. Just take the king away and let's see where the mate is. I'm sure mate in 16. Got that move right. Knight b5. Saw it the whole way. No, I definitely didn't. Oh no. Yeah. Okay. Queen c2, and then king a1, knight c3, king e2, queen a2. Okay, that's really not hard to see. Okay, so just to illustrate this one, and there's no stopping mate on one of these squares here. That's embarrassing, but we had a little fun with Stockfish. Just poked him around, and we got to display a nice little trick, even though everything here is wrong after missing mate in 3, but got to display a nice little trick. Just knight f1, blocking that off, and now just checkmate with the 2 queens. So 0 out of 10 for technique, but I'm going to go with 10 out of 10 for style because I'm a fan of having two queens on the board. So there you go. 9 inaccuracies. I'm going to bet that most of those 9 came here at the end when I was repeatedly missing forcing mates. Um, my brain kind of shut down in the overwhelming advantage of the position here, which is a poor excuse, but there you go. That is my excuse. Yeah, just this is not hard to see. But I didn't see it. In my defense, I only had 15 minutes to think about it. I'm joking. That's plenty of time. Of course, obviously. But oh well. Still was able to finish this off nicely. Some imprecisions it looks like here, but that's going to happen in the Dutch. Things are a little tougher to evaluate in these positions, but overall a pretty good game. I'll take it. We're up 2-0, halfway there to getting Stockfish 5 down. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care and enjoy your chess. Bye.